Welcome to the Mindfully Gay podcast, where we explore what it means to live authentically, connect deeply, and build meaningful community as gay men.
In today's episode, More Than Pride, What Queer Community Needs Now, we take you inside the Utah Pride Center for an honest conversation about how queer spaces are evolving and why they matter now more than ever.
From support and advocacy to joy, connection, and belonging, we're exploring what community really looks like today and how each of us plays a role in shaping it.
All right, well, we're here at the Utah Pride Center with Chad Call, the executive director. We had a meeting with you and your consultant.
Yeah.
And we were talking about...
Me and my Mindy.
Your Mindy. Okay. I wasn't sure if we could say Mindy.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
It's a gay men's podcast.
Oh.
So. No. And so we kind of had like a little preliminary interview and talk, and I think part of what I was kind of communicating here in Utah and Salt Lake City, right? The Pride Center has had kind of an interesting life existence.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, let's do this podcast. Let's see if we can educate people in the community here in Utah, at least. But I think we can also broaden this. We have kind of a national following, maybe international. And one thing that you said is a lot of Pride centers and Pride events are having a really difficult time right now under the current administrative flow of things. Can you get some insight around that?
Yeah, I can. Some really good insight. Actually, since we last talked, I've actually been elected to the the United States Association of Prides, and been able to even broaden my perspective even bigger on a national level and talk to other executive directors from Pride orgs and Pride centers. They're all structured differently. Some of them are structured like us, where they're the same organization. Some are separate, but everyone's struggling right now financially. And, we've seen, I know of at least 3 centers that have closed in the last 6 months nationally. And I think we're up to 7 or 8 prides that have announced cancellation for this coming year. Like some big ones, like Tampa, Florida canceled theirs. They're going to an every other year model. A couple in Texas that have had to cancel for funding. Phoenix Pride is on the skirts right now, not knowing if they can do it for next year. So it's tough.
Yeah, what's undermining the funding?
Yeah. Well, last year we had, most prides are funded by sponsorship. It's not, I know it's not everybody's favorite, but it's a reality that's just how most prides have been funded. And that corporate sponsorship, some corporations have shown up year over year, and they continue to. But we saw a real big trend last year. The timing of sponsorships, a lot of these companies have to put make their decisions to sponsor in December, January of the Pride season ahead of time. And at that time last year, that was Trump's inauguration. Everyone was very uncertain as to what was going to happen. And we heard a lot of feedback. In fact, some of our longtime corporate sponsors, we didn't hear anything from. They just completely ghosted us. And some of them, and I won't call them out by name to protect the individuals working there, but they would reach out to me on my personal social media and just said, we're not allowed to email you anymore from our company emails. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, things are really weird right now. I can't even reply back to your email and tell you we can't sponsor this year.
Wow. So corporations are responding to government pressure to...
Yeah, and I'd say some corporations, right? Like it's, and I think a lot of them were in a place of uncertainty. Many of them that had some form of government contract were worried about retaliation and losing their government contracts, and that could have led to massive layoffs inside their companies for some of those that relied so heavily on that. And others were just sensing the cultural shift and, fair weather gays, as we like to call them internally.
How much of it connects to Project 2025, do you think?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know that I know enough evidence or examples to be able to point to that, but it is a very real thing. We've one of my newer connections over in San Francisco, the executive director over there, last summer when I was kind of watching the decline of sponsorship, and we dropped. We had kind of a 2-year. We've been seeing it go like it started here, and then we're like it cut in half from 23 to 24, and then from 24 to 25, we lost another probably 20-25%. But all in all, we're down almost 75% from where we used to be year over year over year.
For the Pride Center or the Pride event?
Hard to separate the two because the Pride event, that's where the sponsorship kind of attaches to from a brand perspective. But that money typically would generate the revenue that would feed the center for the rest of the year. And in addition to other things, obviously. Right. It wasn't just Pride funding. But
as you were seeing that trend of that decline, how did you and when did you make a pivot to say we've got to do something here to kind of get our numbers back up or our sponsorship back up?
I mean, a lot of it's interesting because I like to say fortunately, but unfortunately, just given the Pride Center's recent financial history in 2023, we were already in a scaled back model from an operational standpoint. We went from a staff of 26 to a staff of 4. And so fortunately, we actually, because of that, we had to scale back our operational costs. We did have the goal to try to build that back up, which is now kind of on hold until we can understand what more of the financial landscape is going to look like long term. And a lot of Pride organizations are having this conversation internally of saying we need to diversify our revenue. We need to, we were fortunately able to rely on that revenue for 10, 15 years, and that's what really grew a lot of these national prides, including Utah Pride. But we're now understanding that that's a volatile income source. So it's, I think it's just like any revenue dependent organization out there. You have to have diversity in where your money's coming in from. And we've seen a real positive, I think it's pretty inspiring. We've seen our local donor base grow. We've seen our $25 or $35 a month donors increasing. And I know a lot of people think, people that even are part of those donor groups, they don't think that $35 a month matters, but it's one of the things that keeps programs running here.
And how do we go about doing that? What's the process of becoming a donor? What's the easiest way that we can tell people in this video?
That's John off mic, just so we can hear he's asking, how can we get other folks on board to make donations?
You can go to our website and click donate now. That's my shameless plug.
Wait, what's the website?
What's the website? Well, we have two. UtahPrideCenter.org or UtahPride.org. And we've made it very easy to take your money.
What's the difference between the two .coms?
So the two websites, Utah Pride Center is our community center. It's kind of our main page, and Utah Pride is where the actual Pride event lives. So all the event information and year-round programs. So anything that falls under the programmatic structure of Utah Pride lives there, where all of our community stuff lives on the Utah Pride Center side. Kind of the global is Utah Pride Center's programs. Those are programs for the community. They're almost always free. Utah Pride is the fun parties that are revenue generating for the community.
Yeah. So I think it's important, and I prepped you for this, so I'm sure you've been practicing your response.
Oh boy.
Well, I think it's really important, and this is kind of where maybe we'll get into the podcasty stuff in terms of. I think it's important. I know as somebody who has kind of seen the history of the Pride Center from when it was the Stonewall Center down on 9th West, I think.
1992.
And, what's that?
In 1992. That's when it was incorporated.
Yeah, okay, you didn't have to say that out loud.
I was alive.
In diapers. But it went from that to the Pride Center, which was over by the Delta Center for a while, and then now we're here, and so we've seen lots
There's
of
a couple
things.
more spots in there.
Yeah. But there's been lots of shifting and changing and challenges. And so what would be, if you were talking to, like John's kind of new to the Utah area.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the Pride Center when we were driving up here. Like, what would you say to someone like John that the Pride Center does today? Like, why is the Pride Center relevant in the lives of queer people today in Utah?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you did prep me
too.
for it. And I think it's important to note, like, yeah, the Pride Center has changed. It has gone through times of growth and times of expansion. It's gone through times of downsize. It's moved locations. I don't know how many times. Cool. So yeah, good question. Why has the Pride Center changed? What has caused all that change? I think change is a very real part of being queer. I think Pride Centers all across the country have had to ebb and flow. They've had to change with cultural norms. They've also had to change with the needs of community. And some of those needs, I'll get into that in a second, but I think it's one of the coolest things about our community is how quickly and agile we have to be. That was bred out of necessity, but it's also become a strength of our community that we, I don't know of a marginalized community that has experienced as much change in a short amount of time as the queer community has experienced. And so it makes sense that a Pride Center would change to adapt with their community, to me. Things that happen here at the Pride Center, the programming that's needed now. We used to, coming out of COVID, the Pride Center's programming shifted very, very heavily into support groups, into social gatherings, because a lot of things moved virtual. And a lot of people needed connection, they needed community. They still need that connection and community, but they need it in different ways. We still run support groups here at the center. But we have found that a lot of people shy away from support groups now. They don't like the name of a support group. They don't feel like they need to necessarily be, I don't know if I'm going to get canceled for saying this, therapized. I know, I said it to you.
We will talk later.
Therapy's great. I go every week. But they're looking for more of a place to just come relax and not necessarily have to be heavy all the time. And so a lot of our programming has added more social clubs, more groups where they can just come and exist in the same space together.
Just to kind of kick back a little bit, I think when we use that concept of support group, right, it's built around this story of disenfranchisement, marginalization. Look at us, we're victims.
Kind of breaking down.
Yeah, and we need help. And so much of what has happened historically in the community has been kind of asking for money and resources based off of those conditions.
Yeah.
Right? And what I'm finding and what we're finding through Mindfully Gay is that people are looking for more. Like, there's more to my existence as a queer man than grinder and scruff.
Yeah.
There's more than just my sex. There's more than just how I've been discriminated against.
Yeah.
And I think there's a hunger, right, to kind of expand outside of the
I think it's
story.
Exactly. And I also think just living in that space full time, we all live in that space, it can get exhausting. I feel that every legislative session in Utah, we're in the middle of it right now, and it's exhausting. There needs to be a space where, I think there absolutely needs to be spaces where you can break walls down, where you can unpack and you can unfold the complexities of life. There also needs to be space where you can rebuild that and you can become a healthy human that will go back out into society. And, we like to teach skills here. We teach people how to crochet. We teach people how to get connected to mental health resources when they need it, to get connected to physical health resources when they need it. We try to build those skills back up as equally as important as those support groups. I'm not talking down on support groups. I hope it didn't come across that way.
No.
They're very important.
We'll edit it.
Yeah. But it is so critical to, we talk about all the time here, we refer to queer joy all the time. Like, queer joy is important.
Yeah.
That is mental health. Getting together and celebrating, getting together and just existing in a queer space, that is part of our mission.
Right. So talk to my community
Yeah.
for a minute. So I'm 60, and we've seen what's been happening. We see there's this new seed, right? This is relatively new and growing and expanding. What is the philosophy today that's driving the Utah Pride Center? Like, what is the vision statement, or what is the philosophy that powers this place to move forward?
Yeah. I think the start of that answer for me always boils down to the mission of this org, which is to unite, empower, and celebrate. It's a little longer than that, but that's its core.
Uh-huh.
We do that through a lot of different ways, but at our core, that's the litmus test everything has to stand up to. That's the litmus test a social media post has to stand up to, is like, does this unite our community? Does it empower our community? Does it celebrate our community? That's who we are as the Utah Pride Center. We are that queer joy. We are that campy, fun, unapologetically gay space. We're not trying to straddle both sides of the political aisle here. We're nonpartisan. We're here to just celebrate people for who they are. How we accomplish that, we do that through large-scale community events. We do it through small-scale gatherings here at our center. We do it through community outreach, through partners all across the state of Utah. We've got small partnering pride orgs in almost every major rural stronghold in the state, all the way down to Pride of Southern Utah and St. George, all the way up to Logan and the Logan Pride Center. And those are independent organizations, but they are resources we utilize to get people connected to curriculum programs and outreach that we do here at the center.
Give us some examples or some specifics of some of those groups and activities that might attract me, might attract Jerry, or attract anyone who might be listening to the podcast. Because it sounds, I'm getting intrigued. I want to lean in with the, unit. You want to unite, empower, and celebrate.
Yeah.
What are some of the events that are going to bring us in?
Yeah.
And is there a calendar online where someone can go and look at the events and when they're happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a calendar of events.
Yeah.
Where can they find that?
So all of our programming is online. And to answer kind of your broader question, I'm going to start dissecting this from the top down. And it would be foolish of me to answer your question without talking about our marquee event, Utah Pride. Utah Pride is the embodiment of our mission. That is the biggest way that we unite, empower, and celebrate, is not only just with our large event that happens the first weekend in June every year. I actually learned a couple weeks ago at a conference I was at that Utah Pride's celebration is in the top 10 largest celebrations in the country. Yeah. And we are one of 2 on that list that happen in a red state. So it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It's a really, it's a very cool thing. We have upwards of 100,000 people that come together to celebrate in that space. And then we also have seen a huge movement in Utah that actually really excites me, is all of the emergence of all these local prides that have come up. And we support them all across the state of Utah, kind of like I said, all the way up to Logan, all the way down to St. George, and everywhere in between. Even Helper, Utah has a pride celebration now, which is wild. We go every year.
It's tiny.
It's tiny. They have
it's there.
It's there, and they have a wonderful lesbian mayor that is on her second term there.
Excellent.
And
So
she's
good.
incredible. But it's fun to see that expand. Obviously, we know Salt Lake is this liberal queer stronghold. It's kind of been the gathering place for the LGBTQ community in our state, but we're seeing that now expand beyond Salt Lake City, and that's very cool. So I think, first and foremost, pride.
Yeah.
Pride is it. That's the embodiment of everything we do here. On the larger scale, and kind of I'll start there and start scaling down to the more granular level. But we also host really fun things. We debuted one of the state's largest Halloween parties last fall at the Masonic Temple. Had one of the highest stakes costume contests, and like, oh my God, did the queers show up in the costumes? They were 10 out of 10, just what you would expect. It was a no joke holiday celebration, and we plan to do that again. And we also, last year, we debuted and invested in the world's largest trans flag that we unfurled at the Capitol in the wake of a lot of legislative turmoil last year, which we plan to do again at the end of March this year. And so those are kind of the big community impacts that we try to do. We also will drag our 200-foot flags all across the state of Utah. We've taken them wherever we can fit them. They're kind of large. They were designed for Salt Lake City streets, which are some of the largest in the nation. But so we try to be that visibility arm to the state. We are that organization that doesn't have to worry about saying the wrong thing and upsetting the conservative politician. That's not us. We don't have to walk that delicate line. We get to be annoying in our messaging. And then I think even we pare that down on a more granular level where we're supporting these other partnering organizations. We wrote the safety and security plan for Pride of Southern Utah this year and went and executed it because their event happened 2 weeks after the Charlie Kirk shooting. And that was where that shooter was from. And there was a lot of heightened security, but they did not want to cancel their event. And because of the resources we were able to provide them and the help, we were able to go down there and provide them a very safe and secure event, even in the wake of kind of a national threat at the time. We've, on a lighter note, we support like Davis County Pride. We bring their stage and their sound system and their entertainment, and we support them in that way. That's more fun than doing safety and security. But we will show up for these Pride orgs however they need us to show up. And then we step a tier down into a more granular level with the programs we do here in our center that we kind of talked about. Every afternoon, this room right here is full of students that come and do study hall after school. We do more fun, less serious things like horror movie club that's happening tonight here at the center, and they'll be here till midnight, I'm sure. Maybe I'll stay if I can stay awake. Crack a couple Celsius is open and I might make it. But things like that, a place for people to let loose. And then we also are developing social groups around the state of Utah that follow a curriculum from the Utah Pride Center. And that's something that's actually starting to build a lot of momentum this year. It's very, very grassroots and very volunteer-based community groups that meet in libraries and community centers, even people's homes, but doing so under some kind of some structure, some guidelines from the Utah Pride Center.
What's the future for the Pride Center here?
That's a great question.
We're talking about empower, unite, and celebrate.
Yeah.
So how does that vision take you into the next 5 years?
I love this question because I think any nonprofit that serves kind of a social cause or a change, like looking to make change, ultimately, if we're really being honest with ourselves, our goal is to work ourselves out of a job. We want to see society change to a place like we would love to just have queer spaces in all spaces. We'd love people to feel like those can be in their everyday life. That's this like pie in the sky reality or dream. And then we have reality. In 5 years, are we going to be there? No, I don't know that we're going to be there in 20 years or 30. But that's what we would love to move towards. But in the meantime, we were going to continue to provide those services. And I think one of the biggest things we have to do in the next 5 years, we've got to listen to our community and we've got to see where the needs are. Where's the gap? What do we need to provide? It's less about sustaining someone's job position at the Utah Pride Center, sustaining someone, just keeping a status quo going. It's more about being the agile program, being the agile community center that can adapt and change when our community adapts and changes.
How do you get that information? Like, as far as what the community currently desires and wants? Do you do like polling? Do you have a site where people can message you and say, hey, I don't like this or I like this? How do you glean what it is the gay community here in Utah actually desires now?
Yeah. Should I restate that? Okay, so if you couldn't hear that, how do we get that feedback? How do we understand what the community's in needs? Is that kind of what we're asking? I have a funny, snarky answer to that, and then I have a serious answer to that. And my funny, snarky answer is, have you met our community? They'll tell you. They're not quiet about their feedback. But my serious answer is kind of along those snarky lines, is like, we listen to feedback. The programs that happen here at the center are actually driven by community members. They're driven by volunteers. When we have a new social group that starts up or a new support group, our Sit and Stitch group was started because a couple of lesbians were like, we want to bring our friends together and crochet, and it's turned into one of our biggest, most popular programs. We have a choir that meets here every Sunday, every other Sunday, that was started by a community member because they wanted somewhere to go. It was a group that had kind of mostly been brought up around like LDS roots, and they wanted a replacement for church on Sunday. And so they do choir on Sunday now. And so a lot of that is just like, we listen, we provide space, and we provide accessibility for people to bring to the center what they want to bring to the center, and bring programs that they feel like they want to, that will make a difference in their own community circles.
So are you suggesting, like, people listening to this podcast who live in Utah, they can contact you?
Yes.
They can have a conversation with you.
Yes.
And say, hey, we want to do kind of a wellness group.
Yeah.
And what does the Pride Center do to support that?
It varies depending on what the program is and how they want it to operate. We have groups that come in. We have a group right now that's doing a political and social climate support group that's led by some therapists, and all they needed was some space, and they wanted us to advertise it. And that's what we do. We advertise their program, and we provide them space. If it is a true support group, we do take a measure to kind of vet that and make sure it's being led by licensed professionals, and that there's responsibility being taken in that. But if it is just a social group, it's a group that wants to get together and play, what's it called? Blood on the Clock Tower. Become a really big popular game. I know nothing about it. I know that usually they come knocking on my office door at 8 p.m. when we're supposed to be closing and say, is it okay if we stay for another hour or two? I'm like, yeah, I'll be working here till midnight. Go ahead. But they love it. And that's a very casual thing. We don't have to put a lot of effort into that. We're just providing a space for them. Mm-hmm. And then we have the other extremes of the things that we're fully produced and fully putting our staff behind, the things like our Halloween party, our big, more public gatherings, and even horror movie night was started by Jackson, one of our full-time employees, because he loves horror movies, and that's just something that he wanted to do, and it's turned into a huge program. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of different ways people reach out to me for programs. I mean, we have a form on our website people can fill out to actually go through more of a formal process. I've had people reach out to me on Instagram, on Facebook. I have had people reach out to me on Grindr that we've ended up creating a program for because of connections we've made through there. So we try to be as accessible as we can in as many formats as we can for people.
Yeah. Again, so in the next 5 years, give me that version.
In the next 5 years, we would love to expand our presence. We'd love to expand our physical presence into more spaces across the state of Utah. Obviously, there's a funding barrier there, but we have a model. We are trying to grow that model as far as the center goes, as far as kind of our community-wide celebrations go. We're trying to support locally where we can support. We're bringing our local prides together in a Utah Pride Alliance that we pride orgs from across the state support each other. It's like, why do we all own our own sets of 10 by 10 tents when none of our prides happen on the same weekend? Things like that. Shared inventory, and also access to grants. There's a lot of times where we will tap out a grant where we've now applied for and received as much as we can get from that grant, and it's like, oh hey, Pride of Southern Utah, why don't you plug into this? Like, hey, Davis County Pride, like, here's a grant opportunity. And that resource sharing back and forth is kind of how we grow the Utah Pride chapter. But the thing I'm most excited about in the next 5 years is the expansion of the actual community center. And we're hoping we'll be in this space for at least 2 to 3 more years. But this won't be our forever home. We're hoping to expand into, we're packed here, we're booked. Solid every evening. We're
Any vision to have multiple centers?
I would love it.
Like have a main office or a facility and then have little offshoots?
Yeah. I would love it. It is one of the long-term goals there. And really kind of what we're doing now to get there is obviously my job, my first and foremost job is I'm the one that has to go find the money. That comes with the job title. But as a staff, we're really watching and seeing where are our engagement pockets across the state of Utah, where are the gaps in the state of Utah. And one of our really big kind of pillars in our strategic plan is that we do not go after what we refer to as duplicative programming. If there is another nonprofit, another even organization or group that is serving a community and serving it well, we're not going to invest resources there and take away from what that organization is doing. And so, as we would look to expand, we have encircle houses. We have 5 now. Ogden, I think Ogden's number 5. We're not going to go in and trample over the top of encircle. They're doing incredible work. We're going to go find communities that the gap is there. We're going to go find, Logan has a Pride Center. We're not going to go build a Pride Center in Logan. Logan Pride does that. But we are going to go in and find those communities that need that help, that need those gaps filled, because it isn't just Salt Lake. In fact, I think to myself all the time, I won't discredit anyone's experience and either hardship or joy or whatever. Everyone's experience is valid. But I think there's a real difference of being an out queer kid at East High than there is about being an out queer kid in Magna or Helper. Like, those are different.
It is different.
There's a lot of resources for kids in Salt Lake, not just us. There's a ton of resources there. There's a lot of affirming examples of people. I mean, my God, we have a mayor in their city that has an official city flag to give them visibility. Like, that's a different environment. Where those resources might be most impactful is in rural spaces.
Going back to the donations, what's the value of giving to the Utah Pride Center, and can people designate where their money goes? Let's say I want to be a $35 donor monthly. Can I designate where that's going to go?
Yeah. We run various campaigns depending on what's needed at the time. Right now, we are running more of a sustainability campaign. We are trying to raise our monthly donors and get people engaged in a place. They can dictate in their drop down what programs they want it to go to support. And
when you say you're reaching out, like, in what ways? Like, where would people find you guys reaching out?
So yeah, and full transparency, like, this is new territory for us as an organization. As an org, we've historically relied on sponsorship. So building a grassroots donor program, like, we are starting at, not right now, we started about a year ago at ground level. And we're building that, and it does take time. And we fully recognize we have and have had a trust issue with money. I won't like pretend like it didn't happen. Like, 2023 lost $1.5 million on that Pride event. And so there is a hesitancy for folks to want to, I'll give you $25 a month. It's like, oh, are you sure you're not going to just go blow $1.5 million on another party? Like, and so we take that stewardship really, really responsibly right now. We take it very seriously. And those month-to-month funds, it's actually a really cool thing, the structure that we're in right now. We're very fortunate that it doesn't go into our operating budget. It doesn't go to pay salaries. It doesn't go to pay for Pride. It goes into community center programs. We are literally, with every $25 a month donation, like, we are able to provide accessibility to another person for an entire, like a weekly drop in for an entire month. We're able to sustain that.
Yeah. Just jumping on your comment about not trusting,
Yeah.
and especially giving donations, and like, where's this money going? And is it just going, is it going to is it corporate dollars, or is it going to into the corporate pocket? And I guess there's a silver lining a bit with the recent administration, where there's a lot of corporations that are backing out, ghosting in a lot of ways, organizations like this. And so now we need to rely on our community and outside of our community, but the people, not just buildings and people in those buildings with big names on them, but individuals and people who want to see this organization lifted up. So sounds like a call to action, really, to our broader community to, hey, invest your dollars if you really want your voice to be heard, because it's going to be your voice and not the voices of those in the higher ups. It's
true. And it's something I actually feel in a way fortunate. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have a dozen to a dozen and a half of those 6-figure a year donors. The reality is we don't have them. And the perk around not having those is that I don't have to program to what they think the Utah Pride Center should be.
Right.
I get to program the Utah Pride Center to what the community wants it to be, because the community is quite literally who's funding it. There's actually a lot of power in that.
Yeah.
We're not
Is that stated somewhere, like maybe on the website, just somewhere that, it's just what you said. It's your dollars that drives what you want in your community.
Yeah. It's not currently, but it should be.
Just something that brings that trust back.
Yeah.
That, like, I'm more likely to give because I know where my dollar is going. And if they're hearing what I need and want in my community from my Pride Center, then I'm more likely to give.
Yeah.
And then participate.
That's a powerful statement for sure. I mean, and we've been very committed to, one of the pieces of feedback we heard when I first took this job was, where's the transparency in finances? We want to see that. And part of, as a nonprofit professional that I've grown into this job, sometimes I look at that and I'm like, what do you mean there's no transparency? You literally legally have to be fiscally transparent to be a 501c3. You have to file a 990. And then we really looked at it and we thought, how many people actually even know how to read a 990?
Right.
Like, it's kind of confusing to me, and I filed them. And so we've taken steps, like every year after Pride, we release a financial report. It's consumable, it's digestible. It's rounded to even numbers. It's pie graphed. It goes on our social media. In our annual report that comes out every January, we list a breakdown that is simplified financials, but they are audited. They are, they're probably broken into larger budgets than what our true budget that's posted publicly is. That's also available for the real accounting nerds that want to get into it, like myself. We are incredibly transparent about where money goes, how much money comes in, how much money goes out. We were transparent in our financials just last year. We took close to a $200,000 loss last year. That's just real. Like, it's not something we're embarrassed about or ashamed, because it's just what happened. That's the reality of nonprofits. Some years they take a loss, and hopefully we don't take a loss too many years in a row. So I don't know. That's kind of one of our goals, is just to being as transparent as possible with people, because I think people do deserve to know where their money goes if they're donating to a cause they believe in.
So suggest for people how they might get into the line of communication. Like, how would people know what's happening here? What's your kind of public persona that people can tap into?
Yeah, we're pretty heavily present on Instagram and Facebook. I almost just said social media, but that umbrella is enormous nowadays. So I got to be more specific. Instagram and Facebook are our primary social channels that we post on. We have a newsletter that goes out to our mailing list. We've got close to 40,000 people on that mailing list that it goes out to every month. And people can subscribe to that on our website. And then, of course, our actual website is always up to date with programs. That calendar is being updated every single day. I think between social media and getting on our email list and kind of checking the websites, and then, of course, around Pride, we market any way we possibly can for free. But that's, I think, oftentimes Pride's hard to miss sometimes because we hit all the channels that way. But and I think one of the more powerful kind of platforms is connecting to our social media. We also link to some of these other local Pride organizations. So if you are an LGBTQ person living in St. George or living out in Daybreak or in Ogden or in Logan or in Brigham City, they've all got their own channels that we can that are pretty accessible through our channel, getting connected and finding out what's going on locally. I know Ogden every month they do coffee and they do brunches and they do get-togethers with their Pride. Davis County does the same thing. So does St. George. I guess there's tiers to that connection, right? You want to stay connected on a state level, but also on a local level.
Mm.
I was going to say, is there a place on the website where I'm thinking of just collaborators or just associations or groups that you've worked with or referred to, and can Mindfully Gay get on that list?
Yes and yes. We have a resource guide, actually one of the more robust resource guides in the state of Utah for LGBTQ resources. We do paper copies for people like me that like paper. Nice. We've got the digital versions online that link out to anyone's websites. It's everything from social clubs to where they can get LGBTQ affirming healthcare, to where they can find voice therapy lessons, where they can find legal help specific to the LGBTQ community. All of those resources are available there. It's also something we refer out constantly with call-ins. Jackson likes to say all the time that one of the most underrated services of the Utah Pride Center that doesn't get enough credit because people don't see it as a real value is, he goes, we are the queer customer service for the state of Utah. Like, if someone's got a question, they call us. Mm-hmm. We're the phone number, and we are the live person that answers the phone and answers the emails and connects people to something where we might not be able to provide all those services directly. But we do have a connection to almost everything.
Any other
Yes.
questions from the peanut
Yes,
gallery?
cameraman.
Well, seeing how I have this advantage of being behind the camera, so I don't get doxxed or dragged. I don't know. Let me think of some controversial questions to ask you guys. I'm in a good position where I get to hear from thousands of gay men monthly, older guys, like 30 to 70. And I worked with a bunch of people in the Fenway Community Health Center and the AIDS Action Committee in New England and did all that stuff. But I've been hearing just that, I don't know, I just think the elephant in the room needs to be talked about, that there's this central focus on the trans community over everything else. I just keep hearing this. What about the rest of us that are not involved in that, over and over again? And I wonder if you could just speak to that and why it's important or not important to, stay on that path and where we're going from here, and how to get these old school gay guys in that don't get it or don't relate to that. How do we get them to come back and donate, and how do we make them understand what's going on?
Yeah, it's a good question. And a layered question, I would say, because there's reasons why, right? The trans community is fairly centered politically right now, because they're the community under attack right now, politically, primarily speaking. And that's not to minimize any experience someone, in the LGBTQ community has that's outside of the trans community. But it is a very real reality. We're watching it every day up at the Hill. But as far as what the Utah Pride Center does, that is one of the biggest reasons why our programs here are, or can be, kind of catered more to demographics. We have a gay men's support group that meets. We have a gay men's sack lunch. We have a trans support group as well. Those experiences are different, to your point. There's unity in kind of coming together, and there's, quite honestly, the trans community needs the LGBTQ community right now because they are a 1% voice on their own. But the lived experiences aren't necessarily a one-to-one. A gay man's, specifically a gay man, and this question has existed forever. We've had this question in the history about the lesbian community versus the gay male community. Not a one-to-one lived experience. They deal with different things. They deal with different struggles. There is some overlap, right? There's a Venn diagram in there, and it is. I think that's what's so important about. Well, that's embarrassing. I think that's what's so important about having community spaces like this that can get more granular and can get more tailored to certain demographic and groups. Because when you do celebrate Pride as a statewide, we are celebrating to the center of that Venn diagram because we are trying to bring in everyone into that Pride celebration, which is why it's so important to have these other granular groups and other granular organizations that can be more tailored to the needs of certain verticals in our community.
Yeah.
And so how do you make sure that you maintain equity, equality in the, for instance, if you have someone that has a really powerful voice that's really, chatty Cathy and loud and talks over other people, and then you have other people who have so much to contribute to the conversation, but they're the shy type, which, is the case in the gay community a lot of the time. So how do you step in and say, okay, what you're saying is valuable, but we're not going to focus on that. We want to concentrate on something different. How do you measure out the strong voices as opposed to the quiet voices? Is there a way to do that so everyone can be heard?
Yes.
I was thinking, if you're in a room,
it's difficult.
You have one person that has a specific agenda and they're like a powerhouse.
Yeah.
How do you rein that back in? And how is that possible?
Let
With all the personalities that we...
me see if I can reframe this with some historical context.
Yeah.
Because in 2013, I chaired this group called SAGE, and it was interesting because SAGE was 50 and over. Mm-hmm. And so at the time, the Pride Center was offering a lot of youth programming. Mm-hmm. And then they had SAGE, which was 50. And so what we were hearing is a lot of people between the demographics of 30 and 50 felt like there was nothing at the center for them. That there was, that somehow their demographic had got missed. I think I've heard the same criticism that, we've become very trans focused. And by being trans focused, gays and lesbians are missing out on resources, or they're not getting the attention that they did, like in the 80s, for instance. So that's even been part of the history of the Pride Center here, mm-hmm. right? And so I'm hearing John ask the question, like, how do we create a sense of accessibility and equity amongst programming? And I think before what was happening is it was all driven by money. Everyone wanted to save the gay youth, which is fine. But that happened at the exclusion of gay men in their 30s to 50, right? Because the center didn't offer them resources. The only resource was the clubs. Right. So, how does your board of directors and you as the director, like, how do you guys look at that and facilitate around those dynamics?
I'm trying to think, 3-prong, 2-prong. I don't know. I've got a couple thoughts on it. One, I think for I guess a blanket answer of just how we approach this in general is like, we don't approach it from a scarcity mindset. We approach this as like we are going to fill gaps. We're going to see what gaps are out there, what community members are coming to us wanting certain programs. We get we get calls all the time that says like, well, where is the XYZ support group? We don't see that on your calendar. And we say, we don't get people that come to the XYZ support group. So we don't, if people wanted to host that, if there was a host that wanted to do it, if there's people that want to come, we will host it. So it's very needs-based right now. And there are demographics out there that we don't hit at the moment because we haven't seen a need or heard a need. And sometimes those needs are being filled by other organizations or other types of social engagements. I'm thinking clubs like that we talked about, where maybe people in their 30s don't want to come here and sit around and crochet. Maybe they would rather be at Milk that night, and that has to be okay. But like that's also a space for them. Right. The Utah Pride Center does not need to be everything to everyone. It needs to be something to the ones that need it. And that changes. It changes every week. It changes every month.
So what is your resource? Like, what's your needs assessment? Like, do you guys send out a survey to your email list? Like, where are you getting your data that drives your programs?
A lot of it right now, I mean, it's not, it wouldn't be like a scientific data collection or more robust because we are very dialed into the communities that are reaching out to us. It is kind of a needs-based thing where we're waiting, not even just sitting around waiting for the phone to ring, but we are making ourselves accessible to folks. I think I might be the first executive director here that has my actual email address on the website, and I actually read it. And my phone number is not very hard to find either. But that we're really just trying to get ourselves out into the community as much as we can. And I think last year I personally tabled at over 100 events across the state of Utah. I want to hear from our Latin community. I want to hear from our lesbian community. I want to hear from our gay men between the ages of 20 and 40. I want to hear what they want. And sometimes they don't want anything from us, and that's okay. But we have to be able to be aware, and we have to set our own ego and agenda aside enough to listen to the community to say, we really think the Pride Center should go here, but our community's saying this. We need to pause for a minute and be like, oh, maybe we need to pivot. I don't have necessarily my own personal agenda for the Utah Pride Center. It's what our community wants. It's what our community needs at the time.
So I guess what you're asking, Jerry, is how do we assess those needs? How do we know? How do we glean that information out? And I'm thinking that what you said about, why there's the trans vibe, because it's needed right now. And how important it is. I'm assuming it was kind of like back in my day in the 80s when the AIDS plague was killing everyone we knew. That was the priority. Mm-hmm. So I understand. That's what I'm understanding with you. This is the priority right now. We need to help.
It's one of them.
It's one of the
priorities, right?
And how we support that particular priority is by getting money from the community to help to support that. And I think that it's really important to pull in the other people that have been that think, maybe they go, I don't want to go to the Pride Center. I don't really have a need for it. But just to let them know that even though you don't need us right now, you might need us later on. So it's important to support us now.
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately like I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways to kind of think about that in terms of how and what we support. Right? The things I support in my life aren't necessarily things that I need. They're things I believe in. I support organizations out there. Like I support the Best Friends Animal Society. I don't have any animals. I don't want any animals, but like that's important to me. I support Planned Parenthood and I volunteer for them. I've never needed services at Planned Parenthood, but it's something I believe in. As members of the LGBTQ community, you might not need the services right now of the Utah Pride Center, but it is something we should believe in. It is something we should support.
Because down the line, you may need our help.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly my point.
Mhm.
And so that's why when people question, why is this focused in this area, or why is it focused in that area? It's because that's where the need is right now.
Sure. I'm not trans.
Right. And not to undermine the other segments of our community. That's just kind of, the larger piece of the pie right now. And if you look on our website or even come down to the center, you'll see these other events that are open to everybody, right? And you're very welcome. But kind of because of the political, atmosphere, our attention is focused on this as well as other parts of our community.
I think it's an interesting, if we just step back and look at it as humanity, it doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, male, female, trans, cis. Everyone at their core wants to be in the center of something. We need to be in the center of something. Mm-hmm. It is hard for us sometimes to center someone else. It might be what's needed at the time.
Yeah.
It might be, women's suffrage required men to center women. Racial equity required white people to center Black people. Like that's a requirement. Like rights were never given to the marginalized by the marginalized. And that's something we're seeing right now with the trans community. Like the trans community is not going to be able to give the trans community the rights they're fighting for. They're not represented. It wasn't gay people that gave gay people the right to marry. It's always done by allies. It's always done by someone not in the margin, someone that is in the center, bringing the margin to the center.
Yeah.
And this is how we do it, by making videos like this and getting information out there.
That's right. That's right. We're pulling the margins in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's something that we're trying to do with Mindfully Gay. Especially with our recent episodes. We're bringing in different voices and different parts of our community, and it's interesting because we're getting a lot of backlash or just there's a lot of
Feedback.
Thank you.
Feedback.
A lot of feedback, which we like because it's stirring the pot. It's like, and Jerry will always respond with, we want to hear everyone's voice because they're important voices, and all need to be heard. And if we can be a platform to get some information out to folks about various parts of our community and how you can be part of this community or that community or this brotherhood, etc., then hopefully we can do some of that. We can be a part of that cause. And just by talking to you about Pride Center and what you're doing and how you're focusing on our community and what you're providing, might get some feedback, but hopefully in a way where it's opening people's eyes and opening people's ears to, let me check this out and get some information. And if it's something that is something I can get I can back, hey, maybe I will support with some cash.
Sure.
Or, I know someone who can really use those services and tell them about it, right? So
what is it?
We're donating to this mission statement, Mindfully Gay, because the whole point of you guys coming here to talk to the director about this is because we have been gleaning this great information. We have been getting feedback from the community through Mindfully Gay, and they ask all these questions, they say all these things. So Jerry's like, let's actually let their voices be heard through our contacts, which is why we're here talking to you now to share that information. So if other organizations and other groups and people in general just did what we're trying to do right now, you guys would be, the sky's the limit.
Yeah,
it's true. And y'all do a great job of living in that and owning the space of like a differing opinion, an uncomfortable opinion. And we can name it for what it is. It's like, why does something make us uncomfortable? A lot of reasons. And maybe that's what needs to be unpacked is it's like, why, if there's margins in our community that feel like they're unseen, it's like, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear from them, be like, why do you feel unseen right now? And what can we do to make that not so?
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Any final words or statements you'd like to tell our audience, what you want to get out there about the organization, about you, how to get in touch, etc.?
How to donate.
How to donate. Go back to that. Get involved. Volunteer.
Yeah, we encourage everybody to get involved in any way that works for them.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Pride Center used to always have a long history of working with volunteers. Like, do you guys still recruit volunteers to help out?
Absolutely. We one of the largest LGBTQ volunteer pools lives at the Utah Pride Center. We have probably in a calendar year, I think we're up to about 1,200 unique individuals that volunteer at events or at the center. And what's even more wild about that is our volunteer group is managed by a volunteer. That whole process is volunteer from the top down. And that's something we're looking to put more resources in the next year, because I not only think that volunteering is a way to give back, I think volunteering is a program in and of itself. Sure. We're giving people an opportunity to serve their own community, to give back. That is programmatic in and of itself, regardless of. I mean, we don't look at volunteers as labor. That's not what it is. Volunteering is a program. It is meaning. It needs to be meaningful. It needs to be impactful.
Yeah,
it's someone's time. It's important.
Yeah, I know we're trying to wind up, but I'm thinking. I keep seeing this word community board. We talk about a community center. Volunteering is a way to build community, and my mind's kind of gravitating. Well, what is community? Because if someone's not feeling seen in community or participating in community, but we throw that word out, and I wonder, like, what does it really mean, and what specifically does it mean for the LGBTQ community? You know, we're working towards Mindfully Gay in terms of creating community, and yet it's an interesting challenge, and I'm pondering. I'm thinking, do we really understand what community is? Because I think of community, when I think of who I have in my life, I think about people who care, people who listen, people who empathize and sympathize, people who are provocative and provoke. And I'm thinking, queer folks do that.
Provoke?
But and then I always wonder, what would it look like to create a space that allows us, because I think sometimes what people feel in the queer community is judgment or feeling marginalized even within the community. And so I'm wondering, what would the cultural shift look like if we fully embrace the idea of community? How would we show up differently for each other?
Well,
versus a weekly event? Like, how do we care for each other? How do we tend to each other? I think the AIDS crisis was an interesting movement because before the government stepped in, our sisters stepped in, and they became our allies and our advocates. And I just wondered, do we have to have a crisis to do that? So I'm wondering how, like, as a community center, how do you foster that?
It's right in your lap. That's what Mindfully Gay does. That's what we do. That's what I feel like subconsciously you're trying to share the reality of community as we show it in Mindfully Gay, which I think is a really beautiful group, a selfless, positive group. And I feel like that's what you're actually saying here. How do we get more of that?
Yeah, but I'm asking him, the director. I know the answer.
I would add, both from the Pride Center perspective, but also maybe just a personal perspective.
Yeah. This is actually, the word community is something that I have unpacked many, many times with this exact same train of thought. Because I'll tell you what I've learned that community is not. Community is not a group of perfectly aligned, like-minded people. I know, hot take. I have one grandma left alive. She's 94. She's very Mormon. She's very white. She's very the Utah classic person. She's also very funny, and she's probably going to live for 20 more years. But, and I was over at her house a few months ago, and she said something about her neighbor next door, Anne. And she said, "Oh, I'm going to lunch with Anne." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's great." And she said, "Yeah, I mean, she's kind of awful." And I was like, "Okay, why do you go to lunch with her then?" And she goes, "Well, she's my friend." I said, "Well, what do you talk about?" She goes, "Well, I don't agree with her on most of anything." And I was like, "Then why are you friends with her?" And she goes, "Well, because she's my neighbor. She's my friend. She's her community." Mm-hmm. And I look at that and I'm like, she has found community in this individual that she thinks is awful, that she doesn't agree with, but she's her best friend. Mm-hmm. And she lives across the street, and they're both in their 90s, and that's her community. Yeah. Community is something more than just, "Oh, I agree with everything that you think and do and feel," because that's not true. Mm-hmm. Community is celebrating the diversity, and more than just diversity of the obvious answers, but diversity of thought, diversity of opinions. Do I have Republicans in my community? I do. I do. Do I know? Do I have people that voted for Trump in my community? Yeah, I do. And I think that's the power in community. How you foster that space, that's the question. And that's what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. Because there has to be space for that. And I do think that the evolution and the culmination of technology and social media has made it possible for people to find community that do perfectly align with them. Mm. We have been able to segment more, and we've been able to live in a supported community that doesn't require us to be uncomfortable as often. And maybe that's all social media's fault. Maybe it's more than just social media. But I think there's been a lot of power in accessing communities that are perfectly aligned. I mean, God knows it's helped the queer community. It's helped. We have kids on our Discord that live out in rural, God knows where, and they're able to connect with the community virtually. Yeah. But at the same time, it is also causing, I think it can cause, I don't know, it's always causing, but it can cause a space where people are unwilling to be uncomfortable in their communities. They're unwilling to live in a space of discourse. And
all right, tell people how to find the Pride Center.
You can find the Pride Center at 68 South Main Street in downtown Salt Lake, or online at www.utahpridecenter.org. You can donate, you can volunteer, you can get involved in a lot of ways. You can bombard my inbox with whatever you want to tell me and all the feedback you want to give me. I promise I've heard worse than what you're about to tell me. And yeah.
And Grindr. You can find him on Grindr.
And you can find me on Grindr. You can find me on Sniffies. You can find me on all the apps. Very accessible.
Keeping it
very real.
All right.
I enjoyed this. I don't know about you guys.
Well,
I enjoyed this too.
Likewise.
It's been really eye-opening. Hope it's been eye-opening to our listeners out there. This goes on YouTube, so people can watch this. It goes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and apparently on Audible now too. Yeah. So it's just everywhere. So, Chad, thank you so much for taking the time with us, sharing about the Pride Center and what you guys do here. And yeah, if you have questions or want to get involved, go to those resources that Chad mentioned. If you have any questions or thoughts about Mindfully Gay, you can go to our website, mindfullygay.com, and we have some social events as well. You can get in touch with us on Instagram, Facebook. We're on TikTok too.
Oh wow, so trendy.
Yeah. We're very popular.
So until next time, we'll see you next time on the Mindfully Gay podcast. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Mindfully Gay podcast.
If this conversation resonated with you, we'd love to hear your story. Connect with us on Instagram at mindfully_gay. Share your thoughts and comments on TikTok at mindfullygay, and visit mindfullygay.com to learn more about our upcoming free social events.
And if you found value in this episode, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast.
It helps others discover this community and keeps these conversations growing.
We'll see you next time.